Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Allie G Show for track 6. Words truly cannot describe how excited I am for you to hear this episode with my adopted sister, my parents' favorite child, and dear friend, Mariana Fernández. I truly would not be doing this podcast without her because she was actually the one who suggested I start a podcast. So here we are. Anyway, tune in as Mariana and I discuss all things running, how she brought Spanish content to the Peloton platform, her inspirations, and so much more. Welcome to track 6 of the Allie G Show with my dear friend and fellow runner and coach and inspiration, Mariana Fernández. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me on the Allie G Show. I've been waiting for this.
I have been waiting for this for so long. We were supposed to record a few weeks ago, and then I just had too much fun catching up with you. So
I went on New Jersey Transit to go to the Allie G studio and made it there, and we just ended up talking for like 3 or 4 hours straight, and the podcast did not get done.
As we do, but it's fine. Now we're here and we're making it happen. So I know so much about you, but I would love for you to tell the listeners who you are, where you're from, what you do. And with that, I'll let you take it.
I am Mariana Fernández. I met you through Peloton, teaching tread and yoga and meditation. I launched Spanish content on the Peloton platform. So I teach yoga, tread, and meditation in both languages. I am from Tampico, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Born there and then grew up in California. So I'm a West Coast girl, but I've been living in New York for 14 years.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
So New Yorker. Here. Yeah. She's a New Yorker. You passed the threshold. I don't know what it is because I'm not a New Yorker, but I feel like you are officially a New Yorker.
You're from New Jersey.
No, I love it. Thank you for that. All right, let's get into how you became a runner. And I guess how you became a yogi too, but let's start with running.
I think they go hand in hand. I speak a lot about this, so forgive anyone who's heard this story multiple times, but it is one that I like to repeat because I draw so much inspiration from my North Star, who is my mother, who started running in her 40s. So she raised 4 children. She would drop us off at swim practice. I grew up swimming. We were all little fish before we were runners. And during our swim workouts, it was her solo time. And she had a pair of tennis shoes that she would go out and train, and started participating in these races, would do really well, would take us to her races, would sign us kids up for these kids races like the 1 miler. And so just to kind of make us a part of it, but also because she didn't have a babysitter. So we would just be along for the ride.
Worked out well.
Ultimately. Yeah. And eventually, I still remember even she's had only one coach in her whole running career, and they would have track workouts on Thursday. That's where I first learned about that. And so we would go after swim practice, and she would have her track workout, and the coach would kind of work with my little sister and I and give us some speed drills. So we had it a little bit growing up, but I don't know that I would call us runners. I then went on to do cross country, track in high school. But I kind of took a page out of my mom's book and started signing up for races. We did 5Ks. Eventually ended up doing a half marathon before my first 10K, just casual.
Casual.
Like you do. But we were young. I think 15, maybe 14, 15. But it felt, just because we watched her do it, it didn't feel so foreign. It was just like, oh, this is what my mom does, and now we're doing it. And it was never expected of us, but it's pretty wild that all 4 of us children at some point in our early 20s ended up doing not just half marathon, but we're all marathon finishers. Like, it was just like part of what my family did. So I feel really lucky that that's always just been a part of the culture that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. So we found it early on in life, even though my mother found it later on, but she was definitely the inspiration. I mean, she even inspired my papa, my dad. He would watch her at races, and all of a sudden he's like, I want to do a marathon. I like this. So he did 3 marathons in his running career. So he's a marathon finisher too.
The whole fam.
Whole family.
I love to hear it. No, that's so cool that she, Mommy Chi, being she, instilled that in you. I love it. So do you remember which one was your first half?
Yeah, it was the America's Finest City in San Diego. And I still remember, because we had done some 5Ks, and I just have these memories of the races, like waking up early and show up and like waves of people. So like that whole thing from the early 90s, even though it wasn't as big as running is now, but I like halfway trained for that first half, and around like mile 8, 9, I was like, oh my God, this sucks.
Stop. That was going to be my next question. So you were like, I'm never doing this again?
I was like, I'm really tired and I still have like 4 more miles to go. And there was no fueling. Like there was no talk of
we
like...
just talked about this.
So it's just like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, my stomach's rumbling, I'm a little nauseous. I don't know what to do with all these feelings. But we got to the finish line.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we made it to the very end. But I remember thinking, I was like, wow, that sucked. But because it was so hard, I was like, let me do better next time. I had the discipline instilled from swimming. So I knew that obviously, like, just dedicate some time. We were just talking about, like, if you want to do better, then train properly. Yeah. And so after feeling how much that first race kind of sucked, and I was like, oh, let me try better next time.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people either have this sucks and I'm never doing this again, or this sucks, but I'm going to do it again and let me try to make it a little bit better next time.
Yeah, there's something, because I was never a good swimmer. I was fine. I could float, I was...
Okay, but like first in age group for like triathlon.
No, but my siblings were pretty good. I was just halfway decent. And so I feel like I was always pretty humbled because I'm a middle of the pack runner, middle of the pack swimmer. I worked hard. I'll give myself credit for that. But I think even to your question earlier about like, how did you discover yoga? Yoga was so hard that first time class that I took. I took my first class in college. It was like overdressed, underprepared, like all the things. But there was something about being really terrible at it, kind of like that half marathon, that was like, can I come back and work on this? Even though I knew that I would never be the person to like pull my leg over my head or potentially win a half, but I was like, how can I train and make myself better to do this so that I feel more comfortable by doing it?
No, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. And where did you go from there? Like, what was the thought process behind the next half marathon or the next race where you were like, I want to do better. This is what I'm going to use as my opportunity to do better?
I signed up, again, I would follow my mother's lead because she was like, I signed up for the Carlsbad half marathon. So I would just kind of follow suit with what she did. Ended up doing like an 8-miler trail race, I remember. But I was finally starting to, and with her guidance. So she would kind of give me these guideposts, like get a long run in, make sure that you at least hit 9 miles training so that you'll be prepped for a 13-mile race. So she was very good with her wisdom and not overly demanding, to kind of just guide me in the right direction. And then even when I went to college, I would see races I went to school in Fort Worth, Texas, and just would take it upon myself as a kind of stress reliever to sign up for them, because it took me out of the college environment. It took me out of, I did theater. So after rehearsal, like it gave me something to work on really outside of the academic world.
For sure. No, I love that. That's so cool. And then I guess from there, you went from half to a full marathon?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
What was the first one? And like, what made you sign up? Because as you know, I'm on a whim. I'm like, we're doing it. And you show up to the start and you're like, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But what was your process behind that for you?
It's her. The way that my mother has truly been an inspiration, because I watched her. I remember seeing, I didn't get to go to New York, but she had done the New York City Marathon. They've done it 3 times. My father got involved in running, so he did the New York City Marathon, and they were both at the inaugural San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon. And it was the first rock and roll marathon. They had this cool concept that they would have 26 bands along the route. So every mile had a band playing. That was the original concept of it. They had a big concert at the very end, post marathon, that you could attend. So anybody who had a bib could go to this concert. So the idea of like, music and getting live bands to play while you were running. And I think it was probably the largest inaugural marathon with over 20,000 runners.
Oh my God.
It's kind of a shit show, an organization as far as, but they both ran it. And to this day, my mother's run almost all 25 of them because it started over 25 years ago. And she's done it every year. That's her. So one year she was like, I'm doing it. I was like, oh, and this is before they opened the half marathon series. I was like, let me do a marathon. I was like, I think this is like low key expected of us. My brother's done one. My older sister did one. But she told me, she's like, you have to make sure to get an 18 miler in. Like you can't just go that blindly into it. Mm-hmm. And I was sharing this memory with you the other day of, I remember she's like either 18 miles or 3 hours time on feet. Like she gave me that guideline. I was like, all right. So I trained in San Diego. It was while I was 2009. So I was in grad school at this point. And it was the old school iPod armband. So I listened. I was like, well, if I'm going to run, I'm going to wear this iPod so I can be entertained for 3 hours.
iPod.
This is dating me. Oh my gosh. It was one of the first models too. And so I remember I went out there and she tried to join me for a little bit, but she was running too fast. It's like when somebody pretends to pace you. I was like, you're not pacing me. You're running too fast. So I remember never being so mad at my mother because I would be like, slow down. I'm not that fast. And then she let me finish my 18 miles and I had the largest suntan arm band tan on my arm from that training run. I was like, I guess this legitimizes my training. And I did. I showed up, I think a month later to do the rock and roll marathon and did halfway decent. It was hard. It was very hard, but I felt like I was decently trained for it. So that was marathon number 1.
Love it. I love it. And then when did you, because you took a little break. So how long between that, like, again, did you do the marathon and say like, I'm never doing this again? Or did you just keep going and then you hit a point where you're like, I need to take a real break?
It's funny because it was pretty miserable. I remember I got like one of those toe blisters, you get the blisters, had never lost a toenail. So knock on wood, they've stayed intact. But it was one of those like, oh, this like, or like your legs, you can't go down the stairs. Like you feel the aftermath of it. But then it's kind of like you get amnesia from the experience and you're like, oh, I want to tackle this again. And I want to see if I can do better. But my training was not great. I ended up doing that rock and roll marathon 3 times. Once under not planning because they had opened a half marathon, which my little sister then kind of got the bug and she was like, I want to do a marathon as well. And then it was the day before. She's like, I'm not trained. Will you run the marathon for me? I'm talking about my band. I think now they're going to excommunicate me from the running world. And I ran under Maria's name and she ran the half marathon for me. But it was pretty cool at that point because the half marathon had just started. So we were able to start together and we ran, I think, a solid 8-9 miles together. And I still have a picture where we parted ways. She went towards the half marathon. Aww. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to do these next, 12, 16 miles on my own. So I did the rock and roll a few times just to try to get my time better. And then after the 3, I was like, I'm done. I think my dad had done 3 marathons. And even though my mom was still like placing in her age group and killing it, like I just was not that fast. And I was like, I really enjoy running. And I kept signing up for half marathons, but I was like, I'm in marathon retirement.
I love it.
I got 3 done.
I also, side note, I love when you tell that story about you and your sister because it reminds me so much of me and Kate. Like when I ran my first marathon and it was Martha's Vineyard, as you know, like I lapped her.
That's right.
But like it was so not intentional. And it was one of those where like you and your sister parted ways. But like I saw Kate at mile like 10 and she's like 3 more to go and I'm like I got like 10 more to go.
We're not done.
I'm like you're done. I'm not done. I'm absolutely not done.
It's miserable.
It is so miserable, but we keep doing it to ourselves.
Well, and she and I remember she's such a good sport. She's truly my hero in so many ways because my mother's just so focused and you can tell like her head is in the game. Like one of my favorite stories is when she and my dad ran the Paris Marathon, and my dad was like, with Papa was like, do you remember running through like Champs-Élysées and seeing like the Arc de Triomphe? And she's like, what? No, like just like blinders on, honed in, does not take in the sights. And so I had that experience with her. And I'm not that, I like to stop and hug and just like find the joy in it. And someone who instilled into that was my little sister, because when we did that half marathon, this was back in the day before it kind of became big she's like, why don't we wear a tutu to this? And I was like, okay. Like, and we were just these guys would dress up as Elvis. Like, that was the big thing. Like, there were bands on the course, and then the Elvi that you would see running. Elvi. But then Maria and I were the ones in the tutu, like dressed while running, and everybody like would wave and say hi, and they liked this tutu. So it brought a lot of joy to the experience. And I wore these like Madonna gloves. So we found ways to like dress up. And any subsequent race, oh, I have a good story about this. They were like, what else can we dress up? So one year I dressed my family up like as superheroes. We went as like Superwoman, Wonder Woman, Batwoman, and my brother was Batman. And then we did Minions one year. We all dressed up as Minions, and my brother was Gru. He ran in like full attire. And again, this was way back in the day. So it was just a lot of fun. Like, we found a way to make these events just really joyous. When she met her now husband, he did this Carlsbad half marathon. We all dressed in pink unicorn onesies. That's so good. Which he chucked about a mile in. He's like, I'm done with this. And she and I have these memories of like people cheering. They're like, oh my God, the unicorns. Like, we were just the unicorns running on the course. And then there was this article in the newspaper in like 2015 in San Diego, the Union Tribune. It's like, why runners are taking sports less seriously. And it was a picture of me dressed as a minion in the front page.
Do you have a picture of this somewhere?
I do. I'll find it.
I can't believe you've never told me this story.
It's like, why marathon times are lagging. People are not taking this seriously. It was like, fuck you. It's just like, it's a right to the right. It was like, listen, if people can find joy in this or find a way to keep themselves happy from like the misery that could be 26.2 miles, like, let them be.
Like whatever works.
Yeah.
Don't put me on blast.
No, it was really funny. I was like, well,
that is insane.
Yeah, a picture of me running as a minion.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to see that. No, but it's one of the things I admire so much about you and your running journey, because I've told you, like, I don't think I could ever be like someone who's running in a tutu, but also be serious. So like, that's a part of my running that I just need to like let go of and be like, all right, let's like not throw in the towel, but just be like, we can dress up and still have fun and have a good race. And
yeah. And it's just, you see all these different races now, which I love. And I get to hear, I've never done a Disney race, but we were just talking to our friend Eric, and like, do you stop and take pictures with characters? Like, there's just this added element, because ultimately it's a huge athletic feat. And there's the races that you're going to go for time, or that you're going to be hyper zoned in on. Like, there's the ones that you might be going for a PR or a time trial, whatever it is. But I think that there's room and there's space, especially to keep things fresh, that you can add a bandana, a tutu. You can stop and take pictures. There's room for it all.
Yeah, I will get better at it. I think we need to sign up for a race together. I'm going to force you to run one with me in a tutu. Maybe not a tutu. We can dress up like Elvis.
Like the Elvi.
Elvi.
The female Elvises.
Female Elvi. That is too funny. No, we have to do it. Okay, so then you took a little break. And then what prompted you to come back?
I was making some terrible decisions in my life at that time. No,
you didn't have to hash it out.
No, well,
it's all on you.
It's just, because I had super athletic upbringing. I was swimming, and then I was swimming and then running, and I studied theater, which obviously very demanding as far as like rehearsal hours. And even then, once I launched, I went to grad school for it, and then started auditioning while juggling 5 other jobs to make rent and make ends meet while living in New York. So health and wellness did not take a front seat at all. It really took a back seat. I wasn't really taking care of myself. And I remember even signing up for the women's half. The first time I ran the women's half, I just wasn't trained. I had been smoking on and off, like terrible habits. But it was I 2017. It was 2017. Even though I had been doing races, I dipped my toe when I lived in Mexico City. So this was around 2015 in triathlon. So I was incorporating running again, but never had the idea of doing a marathon again. And I moved back to New York in 2017 and I was having a really rough time. And I knew that I needed something because work wasn't providing it. I just gone through a big heartbreak, a big breakup. And I remember cheering in 2016 for the New York Marathon. I was working on a show and I just so happened to step outside and saw like the New York City Marathon happening. And I stood on First Avenue, meaning to just maybe be there for 10 minutes to cheer. And I ended up spending the whole afternoon there, just watching runners go and just feeling so inspired. And you watch and it's contagious and you're like, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. There's this feeling that you just, this element of like, takes you over and you're like, there's a part of me that wants to witness this on that side.
Yeah.
And so that stayed with me. And when I was having a hard time, I literally reached out I found on Craigslist 2 people selling their bibs, which is a big no-no. Big no-no.
You're just outing yourself.
Truly. I didn't do it under their bibs. I called my mom and was like, I need something. I need to train for something. There's 2 bibs for the New York Marathon. Will you do it with me? And she hadn't done it since 1998.
Wow.
So I told her, I was like, I need you. Because I just need something for myself to get me out of this black cloud. And so she said, let's do it. We went through a travel agency in Mexico. So we found a good way to get proper bibs. So we actually...
you didn't buy one?
I didn't buy one. Craigslist, which I'm dating myself again.
I was trying to help you out.
On the Facebook Marketplace. And so we got our bibs under our names because at that point I had like planted the seed in her and she's like, well, let's see if we can get to. And we did. We ended up getting to, and it was nerve-wracking. I remember I like took her advice again, do 18 miles or 3 hours time on feet. And I did 3 laps around Central Park and I thought I was going to die. That's when I started hiding water bottles in the park. But it was 3 loops in Central Park. I was like, all right, if I've come this far, then that means I can finish. And so in 2017, we boarded the bus to Staten Island. I had t-shirts made for us that said Nasty Warrior Women with a unicorn in the back. Yeah, it was, and so cute. We ran together, mostly the whole course. She's obviously slowed down to be with me. Little did I know she had like GI issues that day, but she, like a true warrior, stayed in it. At one point in mile 21, we were up in Harlem and she's like, I got to make a bathroom stop. And I was like, I can't stop. If I stop, I won't continue. And she's like, I'll like find you. Yeah. And I was like, okay, we'll find each other. And I went up into the Bronx, even came down to Manhattan. We could not find each other.
No.
And I like ran back to try to find her. And by the grace of someone watching over us, we were able to find each other on mile 23.
Wow.
And I remember we found each other. I was so excited to see her and we had paced ourselves really well that once we entered the park, it was like, she still talks about it. She's like, let's switch gears. We're like, ready, go. And we just sprinted into the final 2 miles.
Wait, I love that.
Yeah. And crossed the finish line hand in hand.
That is such a special memory.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it circles back to, like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Like being with your people, finishing with your people, all of that. I think it's the best experience
and
you
it's
can have. Or
being, yeah, it's completely like you feel supported, you feel anchored, and truly it's something that, especially given the, again, bad choices I made, I was like, could I ever run a marathon again? It was in me, but I needed her. I needed that energy, like her by my side. And ultimately, it was proof. It was like, oh, I can do this again. We just did 26 points. So that took me out of marathon retirement.
I love it. And then after that, so you're not like on track to do the majors, right? I mean, we've talked about this. No. It's not really a huge goal, but you did Chicago, right? Did you like that course? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So Chicago came through because I ran New York that time with my mom, and then I ran it again in 2021 through Achilles. So I had found a foundation that I really loved, that gave my running a new why and a new purpose. And then Team Reeve had reached out to a couple of Peloton instructors with bibs to Chicago. So it wasn't in part of the training cycle.
It just happens.
Yeah. And I was like, well, how to get into Chicago. But it was right after I had frozen my eggs. So I had to take a big chunk of training prep out. And then I was on the fence with my coach. Shout out to Coach Ferry, who was wonderful. And he's like, well, what are you thinking? I was like, I still want to do it. It's Chicago. And he was great because he's like, all right, we're going to do a run walk method. And I think Chicago it's the flattest course I've done by far, but I think it might be one of my slower times. But I will always say that was my smartest race. Thanks to Coach Ferry and just the tactic and strategy, I really enjoyed it. I crossed the finish line with a huge smile on my face. And it ended up being like a great long training run for New York City that same year.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so proud of you for that because it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy to go into something like that when you're feeling like a little, a little bit of a step down. But no, that's so cool. And then I guess I'll fast forward to when I met you.
It was right after Chicago.
It was right after Chicago. Yeah. I was having a rough time. And it was my first time running New York. And I was afraid to say hi to you. And look where we are now on the same couch.
Get rid of me.
Recording a pod. And I disagree. You can't get rid of me as I'm freeloading. No, it's one of my favorite stories to tell because I know we tell each other all the time. Like I am so proud of you and I like feel so much love and support from you, but like you actually brought me to the start line of the 2023 New York City Marathon. So like, I can't even thank you enough for that. But I want to hear about that race for you because that was like the first time I got to meet you and experience the Team Oprah shakeout and all of the fun things that we got to do together, but also separate. Like you were in your race that day, but how did that one go?
I think any marathon, but truly like the spirit of New York, that whole week, you start to see the blockades going up. You start to see the park transform into the finish line. And I love doing shakeout runs with Team Wilpers. So Matt Wilpers is one of my teammates. He brings together some of the best people. And so whether it was for the United half or Brooklyn half, I tried to join their shakeout run. And then I heard that they were doing the shakeout for the New York Marathon. So we went that Friday morning. Mm-hmm. And it's like a huge group of people that you don't really know. So you end up like pairing up randomly with anybody running. And you and I still remember it was along the transverse on 72nd that you ended up just running together. And you had just done Chicago too.
Yep. And just came off Chicago, yeah. But we didn't see each other.
No.
And I didn't know you at that point.
No, we didn't. And you had gone to Peloton, but we had just never interacted. And so we were chatting. And you were feeling really trepidatious about the New York Marathon. And people had been feeding you some bullshit.
About Boston.
Yeah,
it was right about Boston. Yeah,
but it's so crazy. It's like how those thoughts and demons can start to infiltrate, and kind of you're already nervous to go into this race and this really epic race like New York City, and I felt like you were carrying that weight, like, and just this doubt. I was like, no.
I know, you're always the one.
Shake her. I was like, get this out of your mind. Get this out of, like, don't go into this race like this. This is yours.
Yeah.
It's New York Marathon. And I remember because I had gotten similar, like, why would you do Chicago, New York back to back? Because I did, and I can't.
Like, it just happened. But yeah. No, you saved me that day, for real.
We came together. Yeah. It was a really, really special shakeout. But that's how we started chatting.
I know. I love that. And then I'm fast forwarding again because we have so many great memories from that point up until now. You had decided to run Mexico City this year, or last year, sorry, 2024. What made you choose Mexico City?
Because you try to sign up for some of these majors, and running is obviously taking a big boom. So it gets harder and harder, and either you do charity. And I'd gotten rejected from Berlin. I remember I'd signed up, and it was like a big rejection. Yeah, it was just like, you did not get in.
It was like, no, sorry.
Gosh. Oh, man. And I wasn't planning on doing New York. So I started looking at race calendar, and there's something for me, it just because of how connected I am to my country, to where I was born, to living there, not only as a child, but then again as an adult. I had this memory because the Mexico City Marathon is always around my birthday. And when I lived there, I just remember being like severely hungover from going out to the club the night before or whatever we were doing, and seeing these runners come in to these brunch places with their bib, with their medal, and be like, I've never. And then I had this thought, this like vision came to me. It was like, I remember seeing those runners come in, finishing probably one of the harder marathons in the world because of the elevation. The course isn't necessarily too tricky, but it's just Mexico is over 7,000 feet elevation. Mexico City is. And so I was like, why don't I do a marathon in my home country and a place in a city that I lived in? So I looked it up and there were entries, and it was like, oh, wow, you can actually get into this one. And I saw the date and I was like, all right, it's right the day before my birthday. I was like, why not give myself the gift or the, torture of doing this the day before my birthday. And the entry was so easy and seamless, and it just felt right. And I told my coach, again, it was kind of, I was going through a hard part in the beginning of the year. I was like, I need something. And just like New York served me, I was like, let me start training for Mexico City.
Yeah. And that was like one of our first runs together, was when you started training for Mexico City. Because I was just coming off Boston. And I remember texting you that I was miserable.
Well, we did the shakeout. You were shakeout before Boston.
Yeah.
That was our thing.
Yeah,
we were shakeout buddies.
We were shakeout buddies because we did the United Half Shakeout before I did the Boston Shakeout. But then I was like, obviously we have to do a Boston Shakeout. It was our thing. Shakeout. We did our own Boston Shakeout here. And then, and then you told me about Mexico City, and we went to a concert maybe, and then decided like the next day to run together
to do a run together.
But I was only doing like 12 miles and you had like 16.
Well, this is
actually, you can read it. Not even in my notes. It's my favorite story to tell, but I'll let you tell it.
Where I served myself a piece of humble pie.
I will let you tell the story.
In my overconfidence of, Allie had 12, I had 16, and our coach, he had really suggested, he's like, you should really run with Allie. She'd be a great running partner. I was like, I already love running with Allie. So for me, it was like a no-brainer. I was like, I know she's faster, but like, I enjoy running with her. What is it like going to be running this amount of time? Because all we've done are shakeout runs. And it was like, oh, and then you feel pressure. I'm like, do I have to talk the whole time? Can I listen to music? So I tell Allie,
this friendship is for show. She actually doesn't like me.
Well, I was worried. I was like, oh, and then I'm going to slow her down. In my cockiness, I was like, well, you have 12. And I have 16.
We were sitting right here.
Literally
sitting
on this couch.
Right here.
It was like, you do your 12. We can do our 12 together. And then you can stop and I'll do the last 4 by myself. You don't need to come. And I think I said it like in that voice.
Yeah, you were literally like, I was like, you don't need to
come to the last 4 because I have 16 and you have 12.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, that run happens and yours truly is dying.
I actually wanted to punch myself in the face when you said that because it was so awkward.
She's like, well,
I was like, well, we're never being friends again.
And we're 12 miles in and I'm like, don't leave me. I'm dying. I can't finish this. And she's like, she was obviously like happy-go-lucky. She's like, sure, I can do 4 more. And here I was like, just like crawling on the floor. I was so humbled that day.
It was so funny.
I don't know if that was the day of the run that like we finished and I was like wobbling home. We stopped to get a drink of water.
Yeah, and then you didn't warn me that you were like, I'm gonna fall over.
And I was just like, I'm not doing great. She like literally picked me up for the 16 miles, but for those like cool as a cucumber. She was still ready. She was like, I'm fine. She kept going.
No,
I was just like,
no,
not okay.
I was dying also, but it is one of my favorite stories. What a turning point in our friendship, for real.
It's like, you can stay home for the last 4.
Yeah, she's like, actually, you don't need to go. Like, okay. Okay, I won't.
And the way that I needed Allie. So
No.
yeah, but that
No, I needed you too.
it was a
Don't
good
worry.
experience because I think it allows, I don't know, these long runs are no cakewalk, right? You have to, it depends on weather, it depends how tired you are, it depends on your nutrition, if it's good or not. And you meet each other where you are. And sometimes one of you is on the struggle bus. I clearly was that day. But there is such a support system of getting through like a necessary evil of training for this, that had I been by myself, I would have bowed out. Like I just know. And I did for some runs that I was doing solo, but there's something about whether it's accountability or company, whatever, it's so nice and the time goes by faster. And I've always said that running in so many ways is a love language. I experienced it even with my own brother. I have this incredible memory of running with him right before his wedding day. And he's not much of a talker, so we don't like chit chat too much. But there's some vulnerability that happens when you're out there pounding the pavement, that you remember he looked over and he was just like, hey, what song do you think I should dance to with Mamichi? For like the fact that he was asking for music recs, like something that I don't think he would have ever asked me in casual conversation, but we were at that point running, we were both sweating, it was really hot. And we chatted and we went through different selections. I'm like, what about this one? And similarly, even though we knew each other somewhat, but not a lot, there's something that happens where your walls come down and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm going through this, or you start revealing something or sharing something of your past that becomes like, you can't do that at a bar sometimes, or you can't do that. It just becomes a really open forum with no judgment, and it carries you through for, we did it again, 18 miles, 20 miles.
20.
Like, yeah, it's just a really beautiful thing that can happen when you share the road and like that kind of very trying and intense experience.
No, it's so true. And I feel like you helped me so much in that way. And like silent, like it just kind of happened because I never really ran with anyone because, as you know, everyone's like, oh, whatever, different paces. And like, I totally understand that it
fast.
can
It's okay.
Stop. I'm not too fast. Ferry, if you're listening.
Ferry loved it because I would slow her down. I would pull her back so she would actually have an easy run, which I'm okay with.
I think no. But everyone is so afraid to run with me. But I feel like you were like one of the only people that took a chance on running with me and like actually staying together step by step. But also like you let me put my walls down, and like, I don't know. I just think you build strong bonds when you have the opportunity to run with me. It's so vulnerable.
Yeah, it's
right?
so
like,
open and raw in so many ways that there's no, I think, any kind of obstacle or guardrail that you set up for yourself. They come down. They have to, because you're in it together.
Because my mascara is dripping from my face and you're like, here's my sleeve.
I was like, you need to take this off. Well, yeah, and I don't know, like the bathroom stops or nutrition, or if your stomach's making noises, like the blister on your feet, or we had this one run that was so hot. It was, I could not stop sweating. I was running around the park and it was so humid that I was like, we need to stop by my apartment. And like my shoes were like squish, 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 like, because it was so
I said to you, I was like, is that your feet?
Yeah, my shoes were making noises. It was just so sweaty. And we stopped here, did a wardrobe change, like changed up, went back out there. And the best part is that, as opposed to when I ran with my mother in those long runs, like, and I felt like the pace, like she was not that great of a pacer because she would keep pulling ahead. You're great at meeting people where they are, or at least where I was, and kept my stride. I never felt like you were pushing me too much. And so I really thank you for that, because in a way I felt like it was a proper training run. And the best part about that is even when we go to race day, like there's never been this competitive, like there's so much mutual respect and admiration for how we both do what we do, that this like fierce or like intimidation factor has never, like, I'm in awe of you, but it's never been like, well, I have to, like,
Except for when we're recording a podcast, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't even look at you right now.
That's where she
no,
gets into
it's
it.
so true, and I feel like I know you very well now, and you know me very well. It's like we don't really have that competitive against each other. Like I don't have that with anybody else either. So I think it just naturally kind of worked itself out.
It's a true respect for how the kind of runner that you are, and it really shows not just in being able to train together, but another one of my favorite memories is we now have 3 or 4 different races where the women's half was the first one. I saw Allie, she crossed the finish line and she was waiting. And so she was the one that like put the medal around my neck. And that was such a difficult race for so many reasons that it felt like the warmest hug to be able to meet one of my dearest friends, like at the finish line. And we've recreated that, like at the mini 10K, like she was there. And like, now it's like, I want Allie to meet me at the finish. Like, that's the person I want to see. And we did it again. And the New York City Marathon.
Every time. I told you can't get rid of me.
Found her, like, after I crossed the finish line. I was like, I got the time that I wanted. She got a time she wanted. Like, we were both so excited. And I was like, but I have to have her. Like, I got the medal in my hand. I was like, I will not put this on. Yeah. And I gave it to Allie, and she put it around my neck. And, like, that's been the tradition that we've built.
I know, and I love that. I love that just like a little shakeout run turned into so many great memories.
Yeah.
So many more finish lines. But I love it. And it's true, like the last 2 miles of this year's New York City Marathon, I wasn't like struggling, but I was like, all right, I came this far. I got to keep my pace. But I was just like, oh my God. And then you have the hills and it's like one of the hardest parts of the course. But I just knew that like you were going to be at the end.
Yeah, we would.
But it's you just find your source of inspiration. So I think that's, I don't know. I just love our little race tradition.
Yeah, and you find there's so many of our friends that we know that have run races together and that have crossed the finish line together. But I think it's just as important or just as meaningful when you do those training runs. Like we have this like tradition where like fall on the ground and just document the fact that take a picture. Like we just finished this, and it doesn't have the hardware of a race, or does it? But it has its own little victory attached.
It does, especially when it's 90 degrees and hot. But no, that leads me to my next question, because I feel like on one of our last training runs, it might have been the 20 miler. We hit a point on the West Side Highway. I think we were doing like all the way down and back. To my favorite place, the Intrepid. And on the way back to the Intrepid, you had said like, I need to just put on music. And we put on the Mr. Brightside remix.
The track.
Is that what, like when you lace up and I'm not with you, is that what you're like, what are you starting with? Because I'm also giving another shout out to our blend. As I always do, because it has to happen. That's
something that we created, and even in our solo runs, because musically there's so much in our taste that aligns. So sometimes I have like my pre-created playlists, and it was like, how do I mix this up? And it would always be interesting. Allie introduced me to a Spotify blend, which mixes like some of your top tracks that you've listened to and creates a daily playlist. So it shifts it around and like top played tracks. And it was always really exciting to like find a little more Bruce on the playlist, or even something like the Ghostbuster song that I was like, what the fuck is this?
I know. Actually, I think I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, and it would show up every blend. I'm like,
I was like, that's not from me. That's from Allie.
No, that's from you.
That's not. But
now it's from both of us because I have to listen.
Van Halen got on there, and we had Taylor Swift. There was just so many tracks, and then like some reggaeton that like it wasn't even from me. It was from your playlist that would come and surprise you, I think, because sometimes when you curate a playlist, you kind of know the trajectory of it. But when you're training, it was like I would pop that in, and it was just be such a good support system. And my favorite was to be like, Allie, our blend today is 100%.
Yes.
And one track that would come on consistently is my favorite remix of Mr. Brightside by Jacques Lecompte, which is like a 9-minute track. So it like has a steady pace, steady BPM. And I was struggling, but I grabbed my AirPods. I gave her one and was like, we're just going to listen to this for this final mile to get us through. And that's the track. Like that is the one I come back to. Yeah,
no, it definitely is the track. So I guess like, are there any, like if I'm not with you, or you're not listening to the blend, or you're just like going out there, do you make a playlist specifically for every run, or are you like shuffling? What's your vibe?
Usually for a race, I'll do a compilation, and it like one of the tracks, Pink's Try, will always be on my playlist. That is one song that it just gives me the boost and the reminder, and those lyrics. And like part of me's like crying. I'm just like, oh, this is reminding me of why this is so important. Van Halen's right now is another one. Metallica's The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, usually on there. A lot of Maná, my favorite rock band from Mexico. So there's the tracks that I know that are the go-tos. Mm-hmm. But then recently in the last few years, a lot of my training runs I do with whatever class I have coming up. So I'll listen to the playlist that I've created or get a semblance of it to see how the tracks blend into each other, how the order is, if it makes sense for an endurance run I'm planning, or maybe for a walk plus run. So for me, it's kind of getting to play with a class plan that I have in mind and then curate it and kind of perfect it while I'm on the run.
I love that. I love that. So we're listening to a little sneak peek of your class sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'm like, this is what I'm trying. Yeah. If it's, whether it's a slow flow or I got a rock run, like that's what's on the playlist.
I love it. And are there any artists or songs that are like, have a special meaning to you? Like, do you, like, I always start with The Distance at the start line. It's just, it's that's like a fun little thing that I have with my sister. We always do it. We heard Chris Carrabba and Andrew McMahon once at a concert cover it. And then we were like, this is such a good start line song. And then I always end with Everlong by the Foo Fighters.
Really? That's your finishing
Well,
track?
not anymore. I might need to rethink it because I'm mad at Dave Grohl. But yeah, are there any that have personal significance to you?
Mr. Bright is one that I'll play. And it's funny because I'll do, especially, I don't listen to music at the New York City Marathon. That's the one race that I won't put my headphones in, or I'll do it very sparingly. Like there's this one very quiet part in Brooklyn that All Too Well will come on, and I'll listen to All Too Well maybe 2 or 3 times. It's a 10-minute version, Taylor's version.
Of course.
So that one gets on, and again, that Killer's remix is about 9 minutes long. So I like the duration, and sometimes I'll just go on repeat. I remember in 2021, the one song I listened to on the Queensboro Bridge, and again, I'll put repeat. I'll just have it like repeat because there's something about the steadiness and that repetitiveness. It was Pepas by Farruko that I listened to on the Queensboro Bridge.
That's a great song.
And then this year, it was random because my phone does something if I'm running around. Sometimes it'll skip, or I put it on shuffle, and I finished with 2 tracks. My finishing line track is always World Hold On by Bout Sinclair. That's, I loved
I never knew
running to that because that was the song I heard in 2017 that finished the marathon. So I've kept that as a tradition. Like now at the very end, I have to listen to that one. And this one, as I was running, I remember I just like shifted gears on Central Park South, like as I headed into the park, and Getaway Car by Taylor Swift, which was the song I had heard her secret song that she sang in London when I saw her.
Love it.
Yeah.
So cool. I love it. All right. So do you have any, I'm jumping around a little bit here, but do you have any like pre or post race traditions that are not music oriented?
Music. I'll pack. It's funny. I don't do a flat Mariana or whatever those are called. Flat Stanley. Is that
like flat alley?
Yeah, you see everybody, and
I
they're
know,
like
you've never
so
done
good.
that.
No, I'm terrible. I'm the morning of. I'm like shit. Don't forget it.
No.
Your gels. Terrible planner. I'll try to have some semblance of what I'm going to wear, especially for the big marathons. Sometimes shout out to Chrissy. Like I'll have a shirt made with the Mexican flag because there's something that's just so empowering. Mexicans are the best cheerleaders. I will hands down say, I know a lot of people are really good cheerleaders, but you see that Mexican flag out there and they are a party, with my name or like my Y for that marathon. So I make sure to have that done. And I'm going Mamichi style more and more. I used to wear a lot of color. Like my first marathons was like bright pink, and now it's been all black. So that's the tradition. Braid my hair. That's been a new tradition I've established. And a pasta meal the night before. No garlic, no butter.
No garlic.
The most plain, boring pasta you can imagine. but that is, and a coffee in the morning.
Love it.
Those are my go-tos.
Wow. No, I love it. I'm with you on the pasta. I always put my left sock on before my right.
Oh, really? That's like your
every
thing?
time.
Yes.
It's my thing. If I don't, I feel like unbalanced.
Yeah.
And I always carry my penny, as you know.
The lucky penny.
I did give you a penny from Mexico.
Yeah, I have my lucky penny still in my
lucky
bag.
penny. No, I love it. I love it.
That got me to the finish line in Mexico.
You got me to the finish line in New York. It's all I had to pay it forward. No, I love it. So if you are willing, can you share what's next for you? Race-wise, yoga-wise, anything.
I think the beauty and the complexity of a running journey, and that especially once you start to find your way, navigate, whether you're in your running comeback or out of retirement or what, I had all these lofty plans of this year and what it would entail. And the start of this year, I've had 3 did not start races. So I canceled 2 half marathons, a 10K thus far. I've had stomach issues. And so sometimes it's okay. I think I'm reckoning more with the sense of like, there's other things happening. I'm working. So running took a little more of a backseat in order for me to feel better and get healthy again. And I'm coming back too. So coming up is the women's half that I signed up for. So not the original plan, but I'm excited to kind of get back to training and doing runs together. A cheer squad for a lot of them, because I do think that, again, my little sister is the ultimate cheer squad. We would cheer, again, my mom growing up, but again, she would bring so much joy and like kind of life, not just through like her loud voice, but I remember cheering for her and like even making runners smile. Like I took this idea from her on this whiteboard that I was using as my cheer chalkboard, but telling a runner, like they're going by like, you have sexy legs, keep going. Or like giving her like, look at that smile, like giving them some kind of different thing to like, maybe just make them smile in that moment or like distract them. And so I'm excited about being cheer squad for a lot of my friends that are running the United Half this year.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I'll see you at the finish line at the women's half.
That's right.
Hopefully, if I'm not dying, I'll at least give you your medal.
Please.
No promises that I'll be running.
No matter what.
I will absolutely be giving you your medal at the end of that one. I'm excited for you. And yeah, even though you had to take a little break, we're happy you're here to tell the tale.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
matters.
okay. I think it's the reminder. We've been talking about sometimes whether it's an injury or, again, I have these health-related issues. It's not permanent. Obviously, you have to create a pivot, but you get to come back. And running is a revolving door, as I've seen it my entire life, from when I was a kid to doing a marathon to going to retirement to coming back. So even if plans have to change, it's okay. I just know that I'll come back in a different form.
Yeah. And I always love that you say it's never too late.
Never too late.
It's never too late.
Truly.
And
to explore different, I love hearing, because I feel a lot of people are kind of in this marathon era, but I also am excited to see what a half marathon era looks like, or exploring. My coach was thrilled that I took, my strength coach, that I took time off of marathon training right now. He's like, I want to work on your speed. I was like, cool, then let's work on that too. There's just the different episodes that you can have.
Yeah, I think that's another special part of running, is that like when you finally take a step back and you're like, oh, if I stop like spending so much time fixating on one part of it, like you can work on strength, you can work on speed, you can work on, all of that. And I think that's amazing.
It's just as important. And I think it serves you in a very different way. Like I've come back a lot to yoga that I had kind of abandoned for a little bit, or it had definitely become part of the back burner. And now I'm being very disciplined about my yoga practice, which is great. It's serving me in a very different way.
Me too, except for yesterday.
And you skipped yoga. She skipped yoga.
You forcing me to take yoga.
She can touch her toes now, ladies and gentlemen.
I can.
She can touch her toes.
Thanks to this one. I could never touch my toes because I have no torso but long legs. That's why no clothes fit me properly.
Touching your toes is about the journey down.
I can't. Well, on that note, are you down for some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What's your favorite distance?
Favorite distance? Half marathon.
Okay. If you could run alongside any artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh. Any artist? Bruce Springsteen.
Ooh, okay.
Even
I'm
if
gonna
he's
join
running
you
in
on
his
that.
jeans, yeah.
In his jeans and his flannel and the bandana.
Yeah.
He's got to be in the full getup.
Truly. We run along the Jersey Shore.
Yes.
That'd be a dream.
If
come
we
true.
can ever get you back to Jersey, probably not. New Jersey Transit, get better. Okay, one word to describe how music makes you feel when you're running.
Elated.
Oh, I like that. Morning or evening runs? I know
Middle
the
of the
answer.
day.
I
Middle
know.
of the day.
I knew you were going to say that, so I kept it in there.
Always 12 p.m. noon, 12 to 1.
No, it's like 98 degrees at 4 p.m. and you're like, time to go.
Doesn't matter.
I love it. Okay. What would your walk-up song be if you had to pick one?
Walk-up song.
Like a walk-up song. You're walking into a room and you're like, I have arrived.
I have arrived.
What's your song?
Probably a Maná song. I would do Me Vale or Clavado en un Bar, which is in Spanish. But I gotta say, it's... Which one? I Am Here by Pink. That's
Ooh,
my...
I like that.
Yeah.
I like
Especially because how it crescendos and like it starts and has a good message. It starts slow, but then it picks up. Like I feel like in my very scattered Mariana madness, it represents a lot of how I am and how I feel before a race, because there's a lot of like meditation and stillness, but there's also like the ants in the pants energy.
I'm ants in the pants all the time. And you're like, chill out. You already answered this, which is so funny because I just put this in my notes before. Bright colors or neutral colors, but now we know.
And also the long sleeve. You can't.
Yes,
how many times I love running in a long sleeve. I can wear shorts, but Coach Ferry makes fun of me. Even Coach Justin Harris because we were doing this 2-hour Power Zone class, and he's like, "Why are you wearing long sleeve?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's like a blanket to me." Like, I find so much security. It's funny because like we teach and we wear our Peloton apparel, but you'll find me either strength training, yoga, running. I love training in a long sleeve.
Always.
But
you toss it, right?
Eventually, depending on the weather, but I'll keep it on. I had this superstition. This is one of my superstitions, especially when we do long runs. It had to be like 6 miles left. Like I will toss it when I know that we have 6 miles left because I know that I can finish and won't get cold for the 6 miles.
Ooh.
Like my temperature won't severely change.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to have to keep an eye out.
Try the long sleeve.
Okay. And lastly, I guess, what is one running item you can't live without?
I'll give to you, it's the belt because it carries fuel, my keys. Like I just will never trust my pockets ever, or any pocket on anything. And definitely, I have always admired people like Bex, my mom, they run without music. Like I've mentioned before, I've done New York because the energy of the people carries you. But for me, music is such a primary part of my training at all times. Don't listen to podcasts. I strictly listen to, I get too distracted.
Except for this one.
This one, I listen on my bike rides
I'm kidding.
to work. This is my commute podcast that I love, every track. But music, truly, so whether it's shocks or AirPods, as my, aside from you, other companion.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks for sharing all this with us. And thanks for being here.
Running conversation.
Or thanks for having me here.
I know, we're recording here.
As I'm sitting on your couch.
I told her, especially because I love listening to these tracks, and was like, can we do ours in person? Just because I love spending time with her, so maybe it was my excuse. But we were able to make it happen in person.
Yeah, we did. Way to be the first one.
Yeah, we made it happen.
Thank you. You're the best.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I had such a blast catching up with Mariana for track 6 of the Allie G Show. I completely freeloaded at her apartment all day waiting to record. Jokes aside, she's truly such an inspiration to me and reminds me every single day to trust myself and others and what we're all doing. So I encourage you all to do the same. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to it, share it, leave a comment if you feel so inclined, and follow along on Instagram at @the_Allie G Show. And as always, don't forget to listen to this week's On the Runs to hear who Eric and Erica are chatting with.